So Joseph, you also posted on LinkedIn one of probably the best quotes. I will probably attribute you to this at some point in another post later on. Never trust a salesperson when they tell you they have a perfect fit for your needs, and never doubt an engineer when they tell you they don't. Where did that come from, and why is that so resounding?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. That quote actually came from a meeting I was having. So a big part of one of the things that we do for our clients is we help them make decisions about technology and about other security vendors. And we have a sort of drop-in SOC, but we don't actually have an MSSP model currently. And so one of the things that we help people do is figure out what MSSP model might work for them, what company, what provider, et cetera. And it's really, really common for me to get on a call. I'm sort of the first pass interview for a lot of these vendors. I've got enough technical depth and I've got enough sort of conversational background that I can get into, and I can kind of dig into the spots that are going to be maybe a little bit not really there. Some snake oil, some con stuff, some not legitimate. And so I was doing this interview with this company, and I won't name the company because they'll sue me. But I was maybe 30 seconds into this call with them. I was like, this is a scam. This is a con. There's nothing here. They're selling vapor, and they're trying to get us to sell vapor on their behalf. And so I started asking them these really deep implementation questions. I'm like, okay, hey, we have this client, and this is not at all true. Like, we have this client who's got this AWS CI/CD infrastructure, and they're completely built around Jenkins. They're full infrastructure as code. How does your solution help with that? And they're like, this solution is a perfect fit for that. And they start diving, and the solution they were selling was like an MFA app. It has absolutely nothing to do with this configuration, absolutely nothing to do with it. And they just started digging in further and further. And I see the engineer who's on the other end of the line just get visibly more and more frustrated and embarrassed until he just turns off his camera. Like, he just can't handle it anymore. And it's one of those where I'm just sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I know the conversation that's happening on the back end right now, where this engineer's like, you are lying to these people and selling them something I can't provide. And it really struck me because I've been in a lot of conversations. That was by far the most obvious example I had ever been in of it. But I've been in a lot of conversations where I'm talking to a salesperson who I asked them a question about, like, hey, how does this fit this particular need? And I'm looking for an answer of like, oh, that's a good question. I'll get back to you, or I'll send you the documentation, or anything like that. I'm looking for somebody to not necessarily admit, if you know the answer, give me the answer. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm looking to see, like, how well can you handle actual problems? How much is this is just a pitch? And so often it's just a pitch. And that pitch, the kind of the key thing they're taught on that pitch is whatever problem's put in front of you, tell them we have a perfect solution to it. And that for me, when because again, second half of my job is actually implementing these solutions and actually making them work. And so I'm the one who, when I come in for an incident response, if all your stuff doesn't work, I'm the one who's got to get my team together and do the remediations, put stuff in place so that the next time I do my incident response, it doesn't take 9.5 hours. And so all of these technologies, when they're terrible, when they're trash, or when they're just non-existent junk, it's my job to make them work. And I'm the one who's on the hook because, well, you told us this was a legitimate teammate, this was a legitimate partnership. So I've gotten really kind of skeptical about working with those groups. But at the same time, I've also found when an engineer is on the line, very often when an engineer is on the line with a salesperson, whether that's a sales engineer or just a full engineer they brought online, whatever the case may be, very often what I'll see is they'll say like, oh, this isn't a perfect solution for that. We need, like, we don't have, as a random, like, we don't have tagging for these assets. We don't have this specific thing. That's something we could probably implement. That's something we could probably look at doing pretty easily, but we don't have that right now. That for me is such a trust building statement, being able to say like, no, we don't answer that problem. We do answer these problems, and here's how we could get to answering that problem. And I've seen some salespeople who have kind of the technical knowledge to be able to get into that. It's not super common. Most salespeople are sales. And so I see it most often when there are, and that's where like one of the most common things I've seen in my career is like a sales engineer partnership, where you've got not necessarily a sales engineer, but a salesperson and an engineer who really knows the technology. They get each other, they work well together. In previous roles, I've always kind of made a point to like find my salesperson that we worked really well together. We had a really good relationship. And is why I find myself able to speak to salespeople a little bit more easily. But yeah, all of that kind of came out of just watching salespeople and engineers working together and seeing every time a salesperson is there to tell you, we have the perfect answer, we have everything you need, and the engineer is there to actually build the solution. They're like, we don't have any of that. None of that's true.
And now every salesperson is listening to this and is taking notes. So
Bring an engineer, and bring an engineer who's willing to call you out when you're wrong, because your clients you're gonna make more sales. You'll sell to me. I can guarantee it.
I love it.